Welcome to our first look at the WATA N64 population report, and this is the one that I am personally most excited to talk about. N64 is one of my favorite consoles to collect for. It is the first console that I had growing up that was actually my console. Now, we had older stuff, we had NES, we had Super Nintendo, but those were always hand-me-downs. The N64 is the first time where I actually opened up a video game console for Christmas. I am excited to talk about N64 with you guys today. We're gonna start by talking about how the breakdown looks, some overview level stuff, then I will share with you guys the Pop Zero N64 games. Oh my god, they've never been graded before. And then we'll talk about some individual game analysis. As always, hit the like button to help it spread to more people, and thank you to every single Patreon who supports the channel. I can't do it without you guys. Let's get into it. So just starting off, we have 282 unique entries on the N64 Pop report and 3,760 graded games. That is 81.6% of the Super Nintendo number right here, and only 36.4% of the NES number right here, which is over 10,000. What is interesting to note though, we almost have the same amount of submissions between N64 and Super Nintendo, but N64 is doing that over 282 unique submissions, where Super Nintendo was doing it over 588 unique games. That means that the spread on N64 is much more concise. We're gonna see a lot of titles have more submitted copies than we did with Super Nintendo. It's a much more fun library in that sense, but I'll talk about that more later. For games graded as a 10 on the N64, we actually only have two of them. Bomberman 64 and Tigger's Honey Hunt. Now, Tigger's Honey Hunt to this day is a game that is available in factory fresh cases. We are going to see the pop on that game grow quite a bit into the future. Still, having a 10 is incredible, but Bomberman 64, as far as I know, never had factory cases floating around for it. Even on the population report right now, there are only 5 graded Bomberman 64, which makes the fact that a 10 exists just insane. That one's pretty cool. And while we're talking about this, let's look at the Pop Zero N64 games quick as well. Is it going to be Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut? That one's pretty rare. Maybe it'll be Stunt Racer or Super Bowling. Well, it's not actually that exciting. Here they are, 12 games on the N64 list that WATA has not graded at all. These games over here, the Pikachu, Pokemon Stadium, Star Fox, WATA cannot grade because they're all oversized box, so those ones don't really count. But over here, these games, these are the ones WATA has never graded. Of these games, the ones that were the biggest surprise to me are actually Rush 2 Extreme Racing and Vigilante 8 Second Offense. And not because they're super common games or anything, but because they're actually kind of popular games. I just figure someone would have sent them in for grading by now. Of these Pop Zero games, I have these 3 factory sealed in my collection. So I will of course be expediting these out to WATA Games as soon as I can so I can list them on eBay for an insane price with WATA Pop 1 in the title. For anyone who might be unsure, I'm just kidding. But of these games here, I think my picks for the rarest might be Elmo Letter Adventure and Power Rangers. Both are pretty darn hard to find, even CIB, and I don't remember ever seeing any excess sealed copies floating around. Maybe Nuclear Strike 64 as well, but they definitely aren't popular titles overall, which makes sense as to why they just haven't been submitted yet. We will, of course, see every single one of these games have population added in the future. So coming back to the stats here, let's talk about this nice little colored chart we have. When you're looking at it, the order is N64, then Super Nintendo, then NES. So N64, just like Super Nintendo and NES, has the largest amount of concentration between 8.5 and 9.6 grades. However, if we go over to the 9.4, you can see how much less representation there is in the overall grade pool. It's almost 4% less than Super Nintendo and almost 5% less than NES. And even across the 9.0 to 9.6, you see less representation on N64 than you do on the Super Nintendo and NES, which is a bit surprising given such a low number of overall submitted games. You'd think that there'd be a super high concentration in these numbers. Where N64 makes up these numbers are actually in the 6.5 to 8 range, where you can see that N64 has higher representation on all of them, especially on 7.5 and 8. You can see that the 7.5s, especially compared to NES, there's almost 4% more representation. That's kind of nuts, but not really that surprising if you understand how N64 boxes work. N64 boxes are basically as strong as wet paper mache, and then to make it worse, a lot of them don't have a removable box insert tray inside. They just have a built-in cartridge holder, which makes them more prone to hard creases or even just inwards bowing than you'd find on Super Nintendo or NES. At the exact same time though, I know there's a lot of 9.2 to 9.8 stuff out there. I know there are a lot of N64 case fresh games still floating around out there. N64 is one where I really do want to see the VGA pop report too, because because I think it would really add a lot of numbers to those case fresh games. Once again, we see higher representation at the 8.5 and the 9.2 level. We see the classic dip right at the 9 grade, which is now consistent across N64, Super Nintendo, and NES. And really quick, another fun stat here at the 9.8 level with N64, as I'm talking about how many case fresh games are out there. Perfect Dark and Gauntlet Legends have a combined total of 83 9.8s. That is literally 1/3 of the entire 9.8 population belongs to Perfect Dark and Gauntlet Legends 64. If we remove just those two games, we go down to about a 4% representation at the 9.8 level. I don't think we're gonna see two games on any other console represent so much of the overall pop pool. And with N64 having higher representation in the lower grades, you can see that the weighted average grade for N64 games right now is actually an 8.56, which is by far the lowest we've seen so far. Super Nintendo was an 8.79, NES was an 8.89. N64 is getting closer to what I thought would be the actual average here. I assumed something like an 8.0 to 8.5 with all of these before starting to do this analysis. N64 so far is the closest to what I thought in my head before looking at the data. And then the last thing I have for you guys with this overview stuff is here is the NES pop report on the left, Super Nintendo in the middle, and N64 on the right. You can see with the NES and Super Nintendo grade distribution, you would think I copy and pasted the same chart here. These are very close to looking the exact same. Over on N64, the 9.4 is cooled off a little bit, which makes it a little bit more even across the 8.5 to 9.6 level, but still the same general structure has appeared. Heavy concentration between 8.5 and 9.6 is the pattern, which makes sense for now, as the games that were most sent in are the games that are most worth being sent in and or VGA crossovers of high grade. It's going to be very interesting to see what this looks like 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. But let's swap over to the actual population report here and do some digging. So right at the top here, we have Ocarina of Time with 201 copies, and only 12 of them are actually Player's Choice. Collector's Edition, 118, normal print, 70. I said it before in my other breakdown video that I was genuinely surprised by the amount of Ocarina of Time. I thought Gauntlet Legends or Perfect Dark would be the #1 game. We see Gauntlet Legends at 197 and Perfect Dark at 157. Ocarina of Time at 201 is, relatively speaking, a lot of Ocarina of Time out there. Presenting it any other way would not be honest. Does it make me worried about Ocarina of Time? Is the price on the game going to crash? I don't think so. Much like the Pokemon games, I think this is always going to be very collectible, always going to be very sought after. And if you want a further breakdown of the relative analysis of this pop report versus sports cards or Pokemon cards, you can watch my other pop report video where I dug a bit deeper onto these absolute numbers. The only thing I want to mention here is that Ocarina of Time, yes, is higher relative to other games. No, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. And that's what I was alluding to earlier in the video here. N64 is such a concise population report where we're going to see higher population counts on a lot of the more popular games. And for myself, that makes N64 buying, selling, collecting even more fun. It's a good thing when we have 6.5s all the way up to 9.8s actually representing the population count. The fact that Mario 64 has 125 copies and 81 of them are standard print, that just means that there's actually a chance for people to get these in their collections. And then at the super high end, right, we only have 3 copies in 9.8 condition. That means that there's both the super high end investor collector side of things, as well as being availability and supply for those people who just want to own a copy, but probably wouldn't be able to afford the game if there were only 10 of them total, and definitely can't afford to buy the absolute highest end of the population count. A lot of the games on the NES and Super Nintendo pop report we are seeing are just absolutely low number. Even a lot of the Marios on Super Nintendo were pathetically low. It's a little bit refreshing on N64 to see that, oh, GoldenEye 007 has 59 standard print copies. Like, maybe I'll be able to get one in the future. I don't actually care about GoldenEye that much. It's one N64 game I didn't really play growing up. I have no real connection to. I know people love the game. Please don't attack me. Coming down, we have more really popular games with high population counts. Conker's Bad Fur Day, Pokemon Snap, Paper Mario. But again, if we look at these, right, 102, 94, 91, there's 0 9.8 Conkers, 1 9.8 Pokemon Snap, and 0 9.8 Paper Mario. So like I said, you have copies for people to collect, and you still have the super high-end chase for other people people too. That is when it gets really fun to be in this hobby. And then of course we still have games like Mario Kart 64, which only has 31 total. 31 total on Mario Kart 64 is insanely low. That one surprises me. I just expected there to be more standard prints out there. Super Smash Bros. Even has 63 total in the population count, which is a little bit higher than I expected given some of the prices that it's been bringing on the high end. But again, no 9.8s exist, so if you have a 9.6 or 9.4 on Smash Bros, you have yourself a pretty amazing piece. With N64, it's a tale of two different games at the top of the population reports. The games were either available in factory case packs for years, and they still might be, or it's some of the most popular best-selling games for the console, which makes sense. That's what we're gonna see submitted the most. That's what we're gonna see at the top of the pop reports. Pokemon Stadium 2, Resident Evil 2, and Banjo-Tooie all sit around the same amount here for total population. That surprises me, as Resident Evil 2, anecdotally speaking, has always seemed a lot harder to get than Stadium 2 and Banjo-Tooie. And it's times like this when I really wish we had the VGA population report, because it would really help to flesh some of this stuff out, where the relative analysis just looking at the WATA pop report makes a lot of these look close. As we come down though, we start seeing some amazingly popular titles have pathetic pop reports. Banjo-Kazooie sitting at 22, Mario Party 3 sitting at 22, Kirby 64 The Crystal Shard 16, Cruise in the USA has 17, only 9 of them are standard print. Just going over to the Mario titles quick, again, it's a tale of two systems here. The game is either really available factory sealed, or it isn't available at all. Dr. Mario 64, 14, Mario Tennis, 13, Mario Golf, 10, Mario Party, 10, which for Mario games are pathetically low. That's insane, especially Mario Party here, a game that I would love to own factory sealed. I wish I would have bought one of these years ago. But that's one of those things where if you're actually in this hobby, actually looking around, actually collecting sealed, I've known Mario Party was rare for years. The issue is that it was always expensive, so I never wanted to buy it. Now instead of costing hundreds, it's cost thousands. I still don't own one. Some really rare ones that you guys might be interested in. Stunt Racer 64 sits at 4 total pop, but the highest is only a 9.2. Either way, 4 total pop on Stunt Racer might be surprisingly high to some of you guys. Very rare N64 game. Sculptor's Cut sits at 1 copy. As far as I know, there were 2 factory sealed copies floating out there. Super Bowling, another very rare N64 game, actually has 7 on the population report. Games like ISS 98 and 2000 show much less representation on here. And then even a game like Jeremy McGrath's Supercross 2000 only has 2. Obviously, Super Bowling is much more rare overall than Jeremy McGrath, but no one cares to submit Jeremy, so it looks more rare on the pop report. Kind of funny to see. Overall though, with a tighter population count here on N64, it's really cool to see what games are pretty available versus which games just kind of aren't. The lower overall game count just lets you really narrow your scope as to which games maybe you should be keeping your eyes open versus which games you might have opportunity to buy in the future. Hopefully you enjoyed these videos. These are a ton of fun for me to do. Let me know in the comment sections any games that surprised you, ones that didn't surprise you, and I will see you guys in the next population report analysis. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss it.